Elite operative John Creasy leads a covert extraction team, but the operation turns into a disaster when enemy soldiers ambush them. One by one, his teammates are killed, including Ant, who dies in Creasy's arms begging him to tell his wife he loves her.
Hey! Tell my wife I love her.
The trauma destroys Creasy emotionally, leaving him broken, isolated, and drowning in guilt. Months later, Creasy is barely functioning. Haunted by PTSD and the deaths of his team, he spirals into depression and alcoholism. His old friend Rayburn refuses to abandon him and offers him another chance, a security assignment in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. At first, Creasy wants nothing to do with it. He believes he's no longer capable of protecting anyone, but Rayburn insists that deep down, the old Creasy still exists. When they arrive in Brazil, Creasy is introduced to Rayburn's family, his wife Regina, their young sons, and especially their rebellious teenage daughter Poe. Poe struggles with constantly moving because of her father's work and resents the unstable life forced on her family.
Okay, I know you had all your friends in LA.
And Atlanta before that, and Houston before that.
Yeah, and I know that you were going to make varsity basketball. And I was going to miss it. Because I have to go where the work is. You know that. And I only get so many years with you guys, and I brought you because I couldn't bear the idea of waking up every morning and not seeing your face. Even if it was angry.
Even so, Creasy slowly forms a connection with her after seeing how much Rayburn truly loves his daughter.
The only thing you wanted to hear before you went to bed, and if he had the chance to sing that song, no matter where he was going to do it. So no matter how much he annoys you, you're never going to convince me that it comes close to how much he loves you.
Meanwhile, political tension is rising across Brazil ahead of a major election. President Carmo fears a terrorist attack from extremist groups targeting luxury developments tied to his administration. Rayburn's company has been hired to provide security, and Creasy reluctantly joins the operation. But during a meeting with Brazilian security chief Prodo Soares, Creasy's mental condition is questioned.
John Creasy, New Orleans, Louisiana, U.S. Army Special Forces, 3 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then many private security contracts with the CIA.
That's right.
Until 4 years ago, when he led an operation in Mexico City and managed to get his entire team killed.
Right, well.
At which point he was removed from active duty pending treatment for severe PTSD.
Soares knows about the failed Mexico City mission that got Creasy's entire team killed and believes he's emotionally unstable. Even so, Rayburn defends him, claiming Creasy is still the best operative he's ever worked with.
John Creasy is by far the best in this kind of situation that I've ever worked with.
The best.
Yeah, the best.
Despite his damaged state, Creasy starts slowly reconnecting with the world around him. A chance encounter with a warm and optimistic driver named Valeria Mello reminds him what normal human interaction feels like.
2 things I've learned. People who worry about doing things well tend to be the ones who do.
What's the other thing?
People tip better when you make them smile.
For the first time in years, he laughs and lowers his guard. At the same time, Poe begins opening up emotionally. One touching moment reveals that when she was younger, her father used to sing "Never Tear Us Apart" to her every night before bed, even while deployed overseas. A massive terrorist attack suddenly devastates Rio. A luxury tower explodes in a horrifying bombing that kills hundreds of people, including Rayburn and most of his family.
Dad,
Oh, look at Miss Party Animal. Think you can get over on me? Maybe your mom, which, by the way, you better take that jacket off before she wakes up. Maybe I can keep the grounding down a week.
The city descends into panic as the government blames a violent extremist organization known as the FRP. Miraculously, Poe survives the blast. She becomes the only known witness who may have seen the attackers responsible for the bombing. Terrified and traumatized, Poe is placed under government protection while officials desperately try to uncover who orchestrated the massacre. Creasy immediately realizes something is wrong. He no longer trusts the authorities, especially Prodo Soares and the political leaders surrounding the investigation. Instead of allowing Poe to be interrogated immediately, Creasy instructs her to stay silent until he can guarantee her safety.
Until we're guaranteed that and we're holding your ticket in our hand, you don't tell them anything, okay? There's gonna be people who are gonna want to ask you a lot of questions.
I know.
Under no circumstances should you tell them anything unless and until I tell you to. Do you understand?
Yeah.
He believes powerful people may be hiding the truth behind the attack. President Kamo agrees to let Po return to America after giving a statement, but only if Creasy escorts her personally.
And you, of course, will accompany her to the interview so she can be as comfortable and as thorough as possible. After, you and she will return to America with the understanding that we can still count on her cooperation from there if further questions arise. Is that acceptable?
Yes, sir.
That's when Creasy makes his decision. Instead of leaving Brazil, he swears vengeance. He tells the president directly that he will not leave until every person responsible for killing Rayburn and his family is dead.
I'm not leaving until everyone responsible for killing Rayburn and his family are dead.
The final scenes reveal something even darker behind the attack. Secret conversations between hidden conspirators suggest the bombing was far more organized than the government admits. The extremists may not be acting alone, and powerful figures inside the system could already be manipulating the investigation. Meanwhile, the people behind the attack underestimate Creasy. They believe he's broken, outdated, and no longer dangerous. Po is now the only surviving witness who may have seen the attackers, making her a target for assassination.
Point to the van you saw. Look and point, don't think, just remember.
Creasy knows the attack at the military airbase proves one terrifying thing: the enemy has people inside the Brazilian system. Someone leaked their convoy route and diversion plans. That means nobody can be trusted.
Are they with us?
Hey, we need to divert. What? They're on the buildings and we got a car pacing us about a block away. The route is compromised. Divert now.
Instead of allowing the authorities to control the investigation, Creasy takes charge himself. Inside the military base, he begins psychologically guiding Po through her memories like a surgeon operating on trauma. Rather than forcing emotions out of her, he carefully rebuilds the moments before the bombing piece by piece. At first, Po only remembers confusion and fear, but slowly, important details return. She remembers two white vans speeding through an intersection and a black motorcycle rider dressed completely in dark clothing. Then suddenly, she recalls something crucial. For just a split second, she saw the rider's face.
I saw his face.
Creasy realizes the attackers weren't random terrorists. This was a coordinated military-style operation planned with precision, and if the attackers are desperate enough to assault a military base just to kill Po, then the conspiracy is far bigger than anyone imagined. Brazilian security chief Soares wants immediate action, but Creasy warns him there's a leak somewhere inside the chain of command. The more people involved, the more dangerous the situation becomes. Even Soares begins questioning who he can trust. Meanwhile, Creasy makes a painful decision. Knowing Po will never truly heal if she stays trapped in violence and revenge, he tells her to leave Brazil and forget everything, including him. He wants her to carry only the good memories of her father and escape before the darkness consumes her too. But before Po can safely leave the country, disaster strikes again. As the plane prepares for takeoff, heavily armed attackers ambush the runway.
Get down!
Gunfire erupts everywhere. The pilots are killed. Soldiers fall instantly, and chaos explodes across the airfield. The attackers are trying to destroy the plane before it leaves. Creasy reacts instantly. Despite being outnumbered, he drags Po to safety while bullets tear through the aircraft. One of the enemy vehicles rams the plane, nearly causing a catastrophic crash. The entire sequence becomes a brutal survival battle. In the middle of the chaos, Creasy captures one of the attackers alive, a frightened criminal named Tiago. Instead of handing him over to the authorities, Creasy disappears with Po and the prisoner, fully abandoning any trust in the government. Now operating completely off the grid, Creasy contacts the only civilian he thinks might help, Valeria Mello, the warm-hearted driver he met earlier in Rio. At first, Mello wants nothing to do with the situation. Brazil is already drowning in violence, corruption, and fear. But after hearing that Po's life is still in danger, she agrees to help hide them inside the favelas, places so chaotic and isolated that even authorities struggle to control them.
A girl who lost her family in the bombing and she saw the perpetrators. Okay, now they want her dead and I need to get her out of the country.
For the first time since the bombing, Po experiences a brief moment of peace. Inside the hidden favela safe house, she slowly begins reconnecting with normal life. Melo and her family treat Po with warmth and humanity instead of fear. There's a touching scene where Melo brings her food and simply listens to her pain without forcing answers. Creasy also begins opening up emotionally while speaking with Po. He explains how her father saw chess as a metaphor for life, every move creating consequences, every surprise revealing who is truly smarter. The lesson mirrors what Creasy himself is now doing, preparing for war against enemies he still cannot fully see. But while Po tries to recover emotionally, Creasy descends deeper into violence. He takes Tiago to an isolated location and brutally interrogates him. Unlike earlier versions of Creasy who still tried following rules, this version operates like a man already dead inside. The interrogation becomes terrifying, using chemicals and psychological torture.
The clock is ticking now, Tiago. You better come up with some answers.
Creasy forces Tiago to reveal the truth. The attackers were not independent terrorists. They were hired guns working for a mysterious man named Osmo, who orchestrated the hit after the bombing. Even more disturbing, Tiago reveals that the attack on the military base only succeeded because Osmo somehow knew exactly where Creasy would divert the convoy. That confirms Creasy's worst fear: someone powerful inside the government or security services is helping the enemy. Meanwhile, political pressure intensifies behind the scenes. President Camo and American officials now view Creasy himself as a dangerous problem.
Director Moncrief, I wonder how your government would react if you had a foreign national on the loose in your country, operating independently, without authority.
They fear he's become an uncontrollable vigilante operating without authority in a country already collapsing into chaos. But Creasy no longer cares about politics. For him, this stopped being an investigation the moment Rayburn died. Now it's personal. By now, Creasy understands the truth: this isn't just terrorism anymore. Someone powerful is coordinating attacks from the shadows, and Po remains their next target. To help Po disappear, Creasy and Melo stage fake crime scene photos to make it appear that Po is already dead. The images are disturbing, but convincing enough to hopefully throw the enemy off their trail.
Telling me this look real?
Yeah, I've seen the real thing. This will work.
Still, Creasy knows hiding alone won't solve anything. The mysterious man named Osmo remains out there organizing attacks, and the only clue Creasy has is the captured gunman, Tiago. Creasy becomes even colder and more ruthless. He surgically implants a homemade explosive device inside Tiago's chest and gives him a terrifying warning: if he tries escaping or betraying him, Creasy will detonate it remotely.
Botón. Y boom.
Tiago calls Creasy insane, but Creasy fires back with a brutal truth: men like Tiago chose violence for money, while Creasy became violent because the world forced him into it. Meanwhile, Po remains trapped inside the safe house, emotionally exhausted and terrified. But for the first time since the bombing, she starts connecting with someone new: a shy young local boy named Livro.
I'm Livro.
Can you leave, please?
I apologize again.
Livro lives in the favela under the protection of his older brother Beto and a local gang crew. Unlike the hardened criminals around him, Livro is gentle, intelligent, and uncomfortable with violence. He speaks English, loves books, and dreams of a life beyond the streets. Po quickly realizes Livro reminds her of herself, someone stuck in a dangerous world they never chose. Livro explains how his brother raised him after their parents died, but now pressures him to become tougher and more violent.
My brother asked me to... You see, when I was very young, our parents were killed. So my brother needed to take care of us, and I guess this was one of them. He always looked out for me, you know? But now he's realizing that I'm just not like him, and I think he started to hate me for it.
Po, still grieving her father, tells Livro something important.
Do you miss your parents?
You never truly forget the people you love.
Very much.
Their growing friendship becomes one of the emotional hearts of the story, a brief moment of innocence surrounded by chaos. At the same time, Creasy continues hunting Osmo. Using Tiago as bait, he tracks down one of Osmo's communication points inside the city. But the entire meeting is a trap. Before Tiago can fully identify the people behind the conspiracy, a hidden explosive detonates, killing him instantly. Creasy barely escapes alive after a brutal fight with armed men in the streets. Now he realizes the enemy is always one step ahead. Back at the favela, tensions rise as Poe's presence starts attracting unwanted attention. Livro's violent rival, Vico, humiliates him publicly and threatens Poe directly. During a terrifying confrontation, Vico presses a knife against Poe's throat while mocking Livro for being weak. Livro freezes in fear. But instead of insulting him, Poe and even Vico both expose the deeper truth: Livro is not made for violence, and deep down, that may actually make him stronger than everyone around him. The scene leaves Livro emotionally shaken, realizing the criminal world around him is slowly trying to turn him into someone he doesn't want to become. Meanwhile, political corruption behind the bombing continues growing darker. As Creasy moves through Rio gathering clues, he discovers someone secretly planted a tracking device on him. The enemy is monitoring his movements constantly. And then comes another devastating twist. Mello, the one civilian Creasy trusted, is captured. Armed men force her to drive them directly to the favela safe house where Poe is hiding. Under threat of death, she has no choice but to cooperate. At the same time, Creasy finally manages to contact Osmo directly by phone. The mysterious mastermind agrees to meet him personally, and in the final moments, the story reveals a shocking secret. Osmo is not just a faceless terrorist commander. He's a father. We see him returning home to tuck his young son into bed before preparing to leave again for another deadly operation. The reveal changes everything, showing that the man orchestrating mass murder lives a normal double life hidden behind the mask of an ordinary parent. While an American extraction team waits at a rendezvous point for Creasy and Poe to escape Brazil, Creasy never arrives. Something far more important has happened. He's finally tracked down the mysterious mastermind behind the attacks. The man known as Osmo is revealed to be Gabriel Estevez, a wealthy supporter of the extremist organization responsible for the Rio bombing. But before Creasy can finish the job, danger strikes on both sides. At Gabriel's home, Creasy secretly infiltrates the mansion and traps Gabriel's wife and young son inside a panic room. At the same time, armed men arrive at the favela safe house searching for Poe. The entire city suddenly feels like a ticking bomb. Inside the favela, panic spreads quickly as local children run through the streets screaming warnings that armed outsiders are coming. Livro realizes immediately that Poe has been discovered. Meanwhile, Creasy begins the most brutal interrogation of the story. Holding Gabriel and his family hostage, Creasy demands the truth about the Rio bombing.
Let me just be very clear. If you fail to answer my questions, I will make sure everybody in this room regret it for the rest of their lives.
I want every detail about the bombing. I want to know who ordered it, who participated, and every step of how they went about it.
Gabriel admits he was recruited by imprisoned extremist leader Emmanuel Ferraz to organize the attack. He explains how different FRP cells handled separate parts of the operation so nobody would know the full plan. But Creasy knows Gabriel is still hiding something.
Hundreds of pounds of chemicals. Weeks of building, planning, surveillance, all done by 2 people? I don't think so.
One by one, he forces Gabriel to reveal the names of everyone involved: bomb makers, drivers, planners, and surveillance teams.
The names of every single person who participated in that building's destruction in any way. You understand?
The interrogation becomes horrifying as Creasy psychologically destroys Gabriel piece by piece.
If you hesitate, your son is next. If you lie or I find out you forgot someone, I will hunt them down and make them pay all over again. I want all the names.
Yet one mystery remains unsolved: the man on the motorcycle.
I think you forgot someone. What about the guy on the motorcycle?
I do not know his name. I swear.
The same rider Poe saw moments before the bombing. Gabriel swears he never learned the rider's identity. According to him, only Ferraz knows who the man really is. That revelation terrifies Creasy.
I swear, I don't know his name. Only Ferraz knows. And he doesn't tell anyone anything. They don't need to know.
Back at the favela, Poe's situation grows worse. Livro and local gang members try protecting her, but rival criminals surround the area. Gunfire erupts across the narrow streets as multiple groups fight over control of the hostage situation. Livro, who has spent the entire story avoiding violence, is suddenly forced into the middle of a real war. During the chaos, Poe is kidnapped at gunpoint. At the exact same time, Gabriel's men discover Poe's location and call Creasy directly. Over the phone, Creasy hears Poe crying for help while armed men threaten to kill her unless he releases Gabriel and his family.
Where's Poe?
She's okay, but she's being held with Livro. We need to work out an exchange, okay? Creasy, are you able to do this or not?
Where and when?
For the first time in the story, Creasy is completely cornered. He realizes he has no choice but to negotiate. A tense hostage exchange is arranged deep inside the favela streets. Both sides arrive heavily armed, fully expecting betrayal. Poe is terrified, Livro is wounded during the fighting, and everyone knows one wrong move could start a massacre. Even then, Creasy refuses to show fear. Gabriel may survive tonight, but Creasy now understands there are larger forces still hunting Poe. Eventually, Poe is safely reunited with Creasy. The emotional reunion becomes one of the most powerful moments in the story.
I thought you were gonna come back to me this time.
Poe breaks down crying, terrified that Creasy abandoned her again, while Creasy promises he will never let anything happen to her. But the victory feels incomplete. Soon after, Brazilian authorities publicly announce that the bombing case has been solved. News reports celebrate the deaths and arrests of the FRP members involved, while politicians take credit for ending the terrorist threat. Officially, the case is closed, but Creasy knows the truth. The motorcycle rider is still unidentified. Ferraz is still alive in prison, and someone still wants Poe dead. That means the danger is far from over. Tappen knows Creasy better than anyone, and he fears his friend is slowly becoming consumed by revenge. Meanwhile, as they drive through Brazil in hiding, Poe finally understands the horrifying reality. As long as she remains the only witness who saw the motorcycle rider's face, nobody around her will ever truly be safe. Creasy prepares for what could be his final mission. After learning that imprisoned extremist leader Emmanuel Ferraz may still know the identity of the mysterious motorcycle rider, Creasy decides there's only one option left: break into one of Brazil's most secure prisons. But before the mission begins, Creasy arranges safe passage for Poe, Melo, Marina, and Livro to escape Brazil using false identities created by his old contact Ivan. Creasy knows the people hunting Poe will never stop, so relocating them is the only chance they have at survival.
We agreed on relocation, and that's what I'm delivering.
Relocation?
Still, Poe refuses to leave emotionally. One night inside the safe house, she finally opens up to Creasy. She admits she's terrified of losing him too and begs him not to push her away like everyone else in her life.
Don't send me away. I've lost everything. I can't even get into the scraps.
For the first time, Creasy almost lets his emotional walls fall completely, but he still believes distance is the only way to protect her. At the same time, tensions explode inside the favela. Livro's older brother Beto discovers that Vico secretly stole money to help Livro escape the criminal life surrounding them. Furious and paranoid, Beto begins hunting Vico down, believing he's been betrayed. Meanwhile, another threat closes in. Tappen, Creasy's old ally, finally tracks into Rio after realizing Creasy is planning something dangerous. Unlike everyone else, Tappen understands Creasy's psychology perfectly. He knows Creasy isn't chasing justice anymore, he's chasing closure. And closure can get a man killed. Back at the safe house, there's a rare peaceful evening where everyone eats together, laughs, and tells old stories about Rayburn. For one brief moment, it feels like a real family again. Creasy even teaches Poe a few self-defense techniques while Melo jokes about his obsession with perfection during missions. The scene becomes heartbreaking because everyone senses it may be the last peaceful night they'll ever share. The next morning, Creasy prepares for the prison operation. Ivan has arranged explosives, escape routes, and extraction plans involving helicopters and yachts. But Creasy chooses another route instead, one provided by Vico's old smuggling contacts inside the prison system. Even Vico warns him this mission is probably suicide. Before leaving, Poe gives Creasy an emotional goodbye. Fighting back tears, she hands him back the taser he once gave her for protection and tells him she expects him to return for it.
I'm not giving this to you because I want you to have it. I'm giving this to you because I want it back.
Creasy doesn't promise anything, because deep down, he knows there's a good chance he won't survive. At the prison, the operation begins quietly. Disguised as maintenance workers, Creasy and Vico move through security checkpoints carrying hidden weapons and cleaning supplies. Every hallway feels tense, every guard feels suspicious, and one mistake could start a massacre. Meanwhile, outside the prison, Pen finally uncovers the horrifying truth. After analyzing security footage and tracking Creasy's movements, he realizes exactly what his old friend is attempting. Creasy is going after Ferraz himself. Pen immediately contacts Brazilian authorities and orders the prison locked down before Creasy can reach the terrorist leader.
He's going after Ferraz. Ferraz, lock it down. Lock it down now.
But it's already too late. Inside the prison, alarms suddenly begin screaming across the facility. Guards rush through corridors yelling for inmates to return to their cells. Heavy security doors slam shut one after another as the entire prison enters emergency lockdown. And in the middle of the chaos, Creasy keeps moving forward. After the lockdown begins, Creasy fights his way through riots, guards, and prisoners until he finally reaches Emmanuel Ferraz, the extremist leader connected to the Rio bombing. At first, Ferraz refuses to cooperate, but after a brutal interrogation, he finally reveals the horrifying truth. The bombing was never truly about terrorism. It was a political conspiracy. Ferraz explains that powerful government officials including President Carmo and Security Chief Suarez manipulated the attacks to create national panic and gain emergency powers. The bombing allowed them to expand their authority while blaming extremist groups for the violence. And then comes the biggest shock of the entire story. Ferraz reveals that the mastermind behind everything is someone Creasy trusted, Henry Pen.
What'd you say?
An agent working on his own. A man named Henry Pen.
Creasy refuses to believe it at first. Pen was his longtime ally, the man who understood him better than anyone. But Ferraz explains that when Rayburn and Creasy began uncovering leaks inside the system, Pen convinced the conspirators to eliminate them both before they exposed the truth. Even worse, the building destroyed in the bombing wasn't originally supposed to be the target. It was changed specifically because Rayburn became dangerous to the conspiracy.
Pen argued that leaving you two alive was too much of a risk. So he convinced Carmo to switch the target to your building.
That revelation destroys Creasy emotionally. The deaths of Rayburn and his family were not random casualties. They were assassinations. Ferraz also admits he was forced into cooperation after the conspirators threatened his own family. To survive, he created fake evidence framing Creasy as the inside man behind the bombing. Suddenly, the entire world believes Creasy is a terrorist. News broadcasts spread his face across television screens while authorities accuse him of orchestrating the attack and kidnapping Poe. Pen personally leads the assault team, determined to clean up every loose end. At the same time, Ivan launches the prison extraction mission. Disguised as a bomb squad, Mello, Vico, and Livro infiltrate the prison while explosives and helicopters create total confusion outside. For the first time in the story, Livro fully transforms from a frightened kid into someone brave enough to risk his life for others. The prison evacuation sequence becomes complete madness, guards screaming, prisoners running, bombs detonating, and smoke filling the corridors as Creasy and the team race toward freedom. For the first time, Pen starts questioning whether any of it was worth it. At the safe house, Creasy shares a quiet final conversation with Poe. She asks him why he keeps risking his life for her, and Creasy finally admits the truth. After losing his team in Mexico and watching Rayburn's family die, protecting Poe became the only thing giving his life meaning again. A violent shootout erupts moments later. Creasy manages to protect Poe and expose the conspiracy publicly, but during the battle he suffers critical gunshot wounds. Even while bleeding heavily, he continues fighting long enough for Poe. Mello, Livro, and the others to escape safely. In the end, Pen is killed.
This is for Rayburn.
The conspiracy collapses under international investigation, and corrupt officials are arrested as riots and protests spread across Brazil.
Minister of Defense Prado Suarez and a rogue American CIA agent named Henry Pen to a conspiracy to use the FRP as a front to conduct the bombing of a residential tower in Rio. John Creasy, at one point implicated in the bombing, instead turned out to have been coordinating with a girl orphaned by the bombing and a small group of Brazilian citizens in a high-risk effort to expose the
conspiracy. What my family has given me is the strength to go on. And what I've learned from my friends is that I never have to do so alone.
If you enjoyed this recap and want more action-packed movie and series breakdowns like this, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next recap. We've got more intense stories, hidden details, and full episode breakdowns coming your way very soon. And don't forget to drop a comment below telling me